what about a story where someone rents the place where they're going to be buried well before they are, because they want to create a sort of transition between their life and their death, and they lay
Cool.
on top of their burial site every day for maybe 20 minutes just to sort of prepare. And then the only difference between that and then when they actually die is that, well, one, they're dead, and two is they're just slightly lower than they were
Well, it would be
before.
cool if, if they did this over a period of years, they could actually start leveling and digging
Yeah,
it down.
that is even better. I like that better. I didn't think about that before. But
A
that would,
true transition, right?
I think that would at least catch the attention of whoever's running the simulation right now, because this is a very interesting interesting release that we've done here to allow me or whoever it is to go to version 2 or at least the next season. My goal is to be noticed. I want to be noticed by the people who are creating the simulation so that I'm not discontinued and I'm not sort of
This is making the Matrix really looks prescient, right? Under those circumstances.
Do you ever think about that? If on the assumption that this is a simulation, and that because it recently, I feel like it feels more like a simulation than usual.
Is that how ridiculous it's getting?
Well,
it does seem
just in general. I feel like things are almost more cartoony than they used to be. So it seems like
they're
there are
pretty silly.
certain buttons being pushed in the same way that you're pushing your sound effects buttons. The simulators are sort of pushing certain buttons. Coronavirus.
Are you really gonna?
And they push it, and it seems like
so whoever wins is the one that just says no, stop it, this is dumb.
It's the one who says, I'm interesting enough to go into the next version at least. Don't discontinue me. Don't cancel my subroutine, basically.
Somebody who opts out of the scenario, but you have to really believe it.
This one is, he's literally laying on top of his grave. This guy's nuts. You see this guy? There are people sitting around this, watching it.
Yeah.
The simulators are sitting around, and they're picking out the people who stand out, who are most interesting. So I'm not even doing this, so I'm just talking about it. I'm not sure if talking about it is interesting enough, but the idea of it would be interesting enough to the people running the simulation, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, I guess you don't know unless you really test yourself by jumping off a cliff or something and,
right.
Disbelieving the gravity.
If you were going to place your bets, and I know this is a little off topic, where would you place them?
On what?
Simulation.
Oh, whether or not it's true? I would think that maybe it's just a different way of looking at whatever already is.
Kind of
simulation, kind of a cop-out.
Yeah, simulation is actually a digital
I don't like simulation I sure hope that it's not run by humans, because if the humans are in charge, I don't know. There would be more glitches. There's been no glitches. It might be ridiculous.
It's probably some sort of hyper-futuristic omniscient beings of some kind, right?
But usually anything that's man-made or man-run always has
man-made means the people in the simulation, so that doesn't even count.
True.
Yeah.
Well, so then it's nothing to do with us. It might as well be God if it's not us.
Well, yeah, they would be gods, right?
Yeah.
The people who run the
simulation.
So
that's what I'm saying. It's basically the same as religion then.
That's an interesting point, because so I like the simulation theory, but I also feel that it doesn't matter to an extent. And for anyone who is listening to this who doesn't know the theory, basically it's the idea that if you project forward current computing technology, you will eventually have the computing power, maybe 300, 400, 500 years, maybe 1,000 years, you will eventually have the computing power to create universes to the subatomic level, where you're able to create sentient life, you're able to create supernovas, and it just goes by itself. And if you have one computer that can do that, then you can press go on a universe, and time is relative within the universe. You have a sort of separation between yourself and the time in the universe, and entropy, which measures time. And so essentially, in that situation, it's likely that there won't be only one computer running the simulation. And if there isn't only one computer running the simulation, then why wouldn't 100,000 or 1,000,000 people be running simulations on their computer, picking out the interesting characters? Maybe that's the entertainment of the future, right? So then you have, in the future, the distant future, our own ability to create new universes, and we will be running simulations of universes on computers. So then you have simulations of universes running on computers that are in simulations of universes running on computers. And when I say computers, I mean that in the broadest possible sense. And so the likelihood that we're in base ground level universes is very low. And the likelihood that we're one of the 1 to, for example, 1 billion that is in a simulation is very high. And so if you assume that, you can sort of look around and wonder what it might be like. But if you were in a simulation that's perfect, why does it matter? Because the people running the simulation are not even human. They're beyond us in intelligence, and they're essentially gods anyway. So whatever.
It's not that. I mean, you could extrapolate some Christian theology into that.
Sure, why not?
Extrapolate. Yeah.
You could extrapolate anything.
All
into
human
that
beings
almost.
are supposed to be children of God, and eventually they will be at the right hand of God and be gods themselves. So perhaps God is what we are currently and has gone through that cycle and is through like a big bang is the willing out or the idea or expression of that being's. I don't know what it would be. An experience replayed, or I'm not sure. But
well, if it's a sort of fractal, a lot of things in the universe are fractal in their shape, right? And if that's one of the things that's fractal in its shape, then essentially you have in the future the possibility that we, projected forward, have the computing technology to run our own simulations of universes, and then we are ostensibly the gods of those universes, and those universes, in the same sense, then have the ability to eventually develop the computing technology to develop their universes, and so on and so on, and it's a fractal, and there's no real base original reality at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to think about it with time, but that's one of the problems for us.
Right. Well, it's unfortunately one of the constraints that we live in that limits our cognition, which really blows. If you know what I mean.
I think it's. I don't like that. I don't like that. The idea that if it is a simulation, that there's like. It's like the guy from Jurassic Park. It's Newman in Jurassic Park, and he's like a computer programmer, and that's what's going on. Otherwise, there'd be some major glitches. People have been exploring the map for quite a while. There'd be something would have floated by now that shouldn't have, or glitched out. I mean, it's getting pretty wacky, but it still makes sense. It's just a very strange story right now. The narrative is strange, not so much the physics of it or something. It's not like anything is.
But if it were like that, you wouldn't be able
wall.
to comprehend the stability. You wouldn't be able to make assumptions about the stability of the universe. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to make any assumptions about what kind of being lives outside of the simulation. You're not allowed to speculate.
That's true.
Really.
Okay.
You couldn't say, "Oh,
fair,
well, it's Newman from Seinfeld." You can't say.
I'm just saying I don't like the idea that it's a basic human, that they're advanced humans in the future, like it's Elon Musk 2.0 and he made what we are. That's what some people I think reduce it to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't reduce it to that.
Like it's human achievement, and now we're living in some future human achievement. I don't know. I don't like that version of it. It's just too limited.
I think that is too limited as well. I think we can scarcely speculate.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. I guess it's.
So if the simulation was true, then, and if this is a game, I think that puts all the religions and all the myth stuff right on the table. Like you might want to just play the game, do your achievements and stuff.
Well, sure. I would agree with that.
I'm already religious anyway, but for not, aside
Are you
from
religious?
Jesus, I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
But I would say if you're not religious, but you did see it as a simulation, you could say, well, I mean, maybe these are the rules of the simulation game. So this is obviously what works for the rules of the game.
That's a Pascal's wager situation. Are you familiar with Pascal's wager?
I've heard the phrase, but I forget the
Pascal,
details.
basically, he came up with this idea, a brilliant logician. If all is pointless and meaningless, you have nothing to lose by placing your bets. So why not place your bets and say, I believe in this God, and just as a sort of casino wager, say, well, the one that's prevalent right now seems like a pretty good bet, so why not just be with the religion of the time as an insurance policy against eternal damnation? Right. And if you are wrong, then you blink out of existence anyway. So what's the risk? And
Mhm.
then obviously the counter argument to that is, yes, but surely if there is a God that is truly omniscient, he will know that he will say, oh, you're one of the Pascal's wager guys, send him to hell, right?
Right.
So he will be able to pick up on that, he or she or
Yeah.
it or whatever you want to
I think
call
we
it.
might have talked about that before, but
So
it's
right, so that's the
when
Pascal's wager
yeah.
situation. So my sort of thinking on it is, if there is a God, that's fine with me. I think it's more likely that there are gods, as in maybe, some sort of omniscient aliens or something like that. I don't even know, but all I can
Mm.
do is follow intuition, research, think, and go about my business. And
Yeah.
that right now has led me to the sort of belief, because all humans have a tendency to believe with our reptilian brains, that
Right.
religion is a very interesting thing. It is very useful. It is an evolutionary advantage to the people who latch onto it. I have deep
Hmm.
respect for religion and deep respect for
The
mythology.
old
But
Joe Rogan outlook. But I'm
my
not saying he
religion,
invented that,
my
but I
religion
understand.
is swimming among them, appreciating
Yeah.
them individually. I can go to a Hindu temple one day, and a Buddhist temple the next, and a Catholic church the next, and I can feel the sense of spirituality that I think a religious person feels. I really do. I really do. Not that I actually believe that there's something there, but I have a deep sense of there being magic in the universe and there being
Yeah, I
magic in
think
the world. I have a deep
just
sense of magic, and I think
yeah.
that that's totally irrational. But my deep sense of magic has nothing to do with any particular dogmatic persuasion.
Yeah.
But I don't have
I think
anything
it's
against it either, except
yeah,
for the
going along like
political
if
stuff.
there's a simulation or there's truth or there is a god or it's aliens or whatever, there seems to be that there is a separation between like the works of man and the natural order or the natural world as far as perfection. You see, like human beings, they are capable of great things, but usually it's when they do it in the service of a higher ideal and not for their own selfish purposes, because they're selfish. I mean, that leads to the situation that we find ourselves in right now with the stock market crashing, an orange man as the president. Everybody can't even go outside without a mask. It's just a complete insanity. It's a comedy show of horrors.